Hey, welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Hermson, and I'm your host. And we are probably about 15 minutes late, and I apologize for that. That would be operator error.
I'll take the hit.
It's nice of him to take the hit, but I believe it was me. And thank you to Lenore for letting us know that we weren't live. We were supposed to be, but we weren't. So again, operator error, and I'm glad that you're with us if you are. And, there you go.
I like the high technology, though. All of a sudden, someone's banging on the window.
Saying, you're not on. What's going on with you? Oh, my goodness.
So we always know when someone's knocking on the window, though, to look and ask questions, where in other types of communication, we don't always know how to act.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's
we
true.
always know how to act. That's inappropriately.
Oh, well, we are glad that you've joined us, and we can be heard on, I'm not sure where you are, but we can be heard on four different Facebook pages. Also on the LaRue Press YouTube page and the LaRue Press Rumble page. So any of those, you're welcome to join us or watch a replay if you don't have time to hang out, or there's a particular segment you want to listen to. So in our preview, we did a little rehearsal.
We had an energetic, passionate rehearsal.
We did. So I want to make sure everybody knows that you can, again, operator error here. You can subscribe to my Facebook, to my Substack. Dominion. Who's got Dominion now?
You can sign into our Dominion.
There we are. All right, I got it. To our Substack page, which is Hermson, my name, .substack.com. And you will see generally what's going to be happening that particular week. And sometimes I've been doing some interviews with some candidates, so you'll have that as well. I did a little brief 2-minute hopefully entertaining little video at the South Valley Library. Got a phone call from Ed on account of that.
I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was a 2-for-1. You were going to cover the homeless off on the side with the voting, and we got the library.
We had the library, and we had people coming in, and it was 5:45, and the polls close at 6. So there were people coming in kind of the last 10, 15 minutes or so. But this weekend, it was unbelievable. There were lines. Like there were 100 people, I guess, at Golden Valley. And there was a really long line. I believe it was South Valley's. And there was a really long line. I'm sorry, folks. I know I'm a day of voter, so I don't do the early voting. But why in the world, on the very first day of voting, is this like a ritual now?
Well, early voting was designed so you didn't have to wait in freaking line,
That's
right?
what I thought.
And so if you go jump in line, you're leaving the country for the next 3 weeks, I guess, and got no chance to vote or get one of those chips the country puts in.
And we're not
people.
making fun of you, but
we're
just kind of wondering.
It's like filling your car up with gas and then waiting in line for it.
I don't know. Do you understand waiting in line for early voting?
I don't understand waiting in line for gas.
Well,
I got your point. I did. So
it works out well for us because sometimes we're not here during and it's so nice to be able to just fill it out, go to the polling place and drop it off.
I get it. That's not my point. My point is, why would you wait in a long line on the first day of voting when you have another 3 weeks,
you
as
only
you
got
said?
21 days to go. The time is epic. I don't know if you can make it.
So sorry. Not meaning to be offensive.
I am. It's ridiculous, right? It's an IQ test, I think.
Oh,
Take
my
the
goodness.
candy away from Ed.
I know he's already had 3 or 4.
Jan and I had this very same discussion last night.
We did.
With the exact same energy.
We're just trying to figure it out. Again, I understand absentee voting. I've made use of it. I think it's wonderful, especially when I work down in LA. I wouldn't be here necessarily. So, that made sense to me. Absentee voting makes sense. It's not that I'm against that. It's that I can't understand why you'd hang out in line. Again, maybe it's become ritual thing. I'm voting on the first day of early voting, like people like us like to vote on voting day, right?
Right.
Yeah, but who are you
So-
going to tell?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a family thing. You get together. So anyway, back to my Substack here that you're seeing on the screen if you're watching. And so I just want to let you know, kind of give you a little heads up what we're going to do. In our second hour today, we have Jon Reynolds, who's going to join us talking about his 2 books. The first one being Tropannos and then Control Game. Those aren't his first books, but those are the ones that are most recent. And so he will be in studio with us, and he's going to show up at 4:00, and we're not going to be ready for him. So sorry, Timothy. We're going to have to make you wait a little longer. So anyhow, but that's what we have going on today. And we also have, of course, our word of the day. So folks,
And what would that
what
be?
would that be? Oh, let's talk about that. Dominion.
Dominion.
in-
It was, let's
Oh.
start at the beginning.
Begin at the beginning.
First recorded from 1400 to 1450, late Middle English from Middle French and medieval Latin domain. It means lordship, or from Latin domain or dominion, means basically.
And this is that word salad thing he did earlier,
I
right?
know. Hey, I thought we did that once.
Yeah. Well, I cleaned it up, but
Yeah,
not
a little
better.
bit.
Yeah, not
But that monotone voice of yours didn't help any.
I don't know. From the 1400s, can you hear like royalty, French royalty yelling at the minions? Do minions! Do minions!
That's lame. Sorry, that's lame.
I think he's starting to IV this can.
I'm telling you, until this election's over and those ads are off, man, I'm like, I'm questionable.
You know, I make it a conscious effort not to pay attention to any of this BS, and that's cleaning up. But you know what? It's very hard to do.
It is. It is. All right. So more dominion, the power or right of governing and controlling sovereign authority. That's terrible. Then the one that I wanted to share is a territory, usually of considerable size, in which a single rulership holds sway. Now, remember what the name of most of the voting systems that are used across the country is dominion. Huh? Who knew? What does that mean?
Well, right? It sounds to me like if you're governor, senator, right, your dominion is your state.
Right?
Your state, not my state, right? Keep
Yeah.
it in your state.
Well, and I want to share I'm going to share the Dominion website with you right now, because I want you to notice the Dominion voting logo. Okay, no big deal. A little red thing going in there, a little V. What did you call it? Looks like a chevron
I said it looked
sign or
like an
something,
elf
right?
with a hat
Yeah.
reading, right?
Right.
Likely it's some kind of communist manifesto check mark.
Well, to be honest, the reason that I even noticed this, I wouldn't have paid any attention at all, but there was a meme on Twitter, and on Twitter it was giving you all these different things about Dominion and saying that, the Satanists always tell you what they're going to do and blah, 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 blah. Well, I like to check things. And so I pulled up the Dominion, because they had the Dominion logo, and they said, you see what they're telling you? Well, what the Dominion logo looked like there was this red thing here, but then there was a blue thing coming out. So it was as if it was going in as a red vote and coming out as a blue vote. It was a great meme. It's just not accurate. So if you've seen that tweet and that meme, yeah, that's a stretch. That's a stretch. But it sort of does represent what a lot of people believe, that they got red votes going in and blue votes coming out. So,
Well, they're being investigated.
yes, they are.
By who?
Oh, who is? I thought you were telling me that.
No.
Oh, no, it's Smartmatic that is being investigated. They've been indicted. Smartmatic is the software that's used in the machines. Now, Dominion is sending out kind of not threatening, but kind of intimidating posts to say, be careful what you say about this because, we're watching and blah, blah, blah. So maybe they're watching. Hey.
Oh boy, is that a threat?
Well, no, but
I'm watching you.
Well, it is a threat for those who don't have a lot of money.
every
'Cause,
state,
they can sue you.
every voter election system is being challenged, right? Every process that each state has is being challenged. Many with Dominion machines, unfortunately few with paper.
Well, and in Nevada, we've started a brand new system, and what an election to do this on. I just think it's insane. We were talking, my sister and I were talking about this. I said, when I was in accounting, we'd start new systems, right? Especially in the time period I was doing that. You were going from manual stuff to computerized stuff. Well, you always did a side by side.
Right, you do
You
both
did,
to
yeah.
make sure
We
they're
maintained,
confirmed.
right, at least for a month or two. You'd maintain the manual system, or if you had a computer system, you're getting a new computer system, you'd go from that one to this one.
We
You
have
double.
Dominion, chuck it.
Well, apparently, our Secretary of State believes that they're perfect because they did not maintain the old system. So here's one of the things that happened is that they're using some kind of, and I didn't go to the open house that they had, so I really have not seen the new system. But my understanding is that they had certain poll pads. Well, my understanding also is that on the first day of early voting, Nye County had a problem and they were shut down for a short time. And then also at the university, there was a problem and they couldn't use the poll pads. They had to bring in the old ones. So, you kind of look at this and go, yeah, this is why you do a double entry, a side-by-side type of comparison while you're getting a new system going.
It is so funny to me, though, right? Something I told my son, but why? So why don't they go, hey, folks, right? We're trying something.
Right.
Right? This may not work.
Right.
But that's not what they say. They go, we're always right.
Right.
We're going to be right.
Right.
And we never fail.
Right.
Of course they're weak.
And they had two names to choose from. One of them was Dominion and the other was Hanging Chad. They went with the Dominion name.
They got beat with the hanging Chad.
Yes, they did. So they didn't want that one.
I think that's true.
Oh yeah. So my point really though was about the whole thing on that meme was that you really have to watch what you're. I mean, it was funny, and it fed the narrative that everybody has right now that they're flipping votes and doing these things, but kind of unfair. That's not their logo. So, but it looked real to me until I looked.
Don't you think, I mean, that hanging Chad statement, no, what state was in jeopardy then?
Wasn't that Florida?
Presidential election.
Well, right, what state?
Florida.
Right, it was a toss-up state.
Yeah.
Where is it now? And
Yeah.
look at the other toss-up states, and it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
true.
that's factual. We need election history factual,
Right.
not as they make
Well, we
it
need
up.
history in general factual.
Well, right. Where is that? No one cares anymore.
Well, I don't know. It just seems like history keeps getting kind of twisted, and
It repeats itself.
it
And
does. It does. Yeah.
I don't know if this is by design or not, but lately, meaning the last couple of years, it seems like everything that I hear or see has something to do with how corrupt our government is. Now, I don't know if this is meant to clean it up or meant to destroy us.
Right. And see, that's the problem. It might be meant to destroy us.
yeah.
we had a word to obfuscate. I can't even pronounce it.
Obfuscate.
Remember that word?
Obfuscate. Your favorite word.
I cannot pronounce it, but that describes that situation.
That's funny. Yes. All right. So my topic for today,
Wait a
and
minute.
go ahead. Oh, you got some synonyms for us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
my
I'm sorry.
gosh. I was just dismissed.
No, you weren't. I promise. Go ahead.
Well, no, these are all from my writing assistant program. So what I'd like to do is throw them out there because Ed takes, kind of takes, he doesn't like them.
I just think they're
takes issue with
inaccurate.
it.
I
Okay.
think they're inaccurate.
All right. Well, the first one they came up with is territory.
It's inaccurate.
Colony.
Eh.
How is that dominion?
Right. It's physical dominion, but there's all kinds of other dominion.
Yeah.
Okay. Region.
Eh.
I'm not sure how that's dominion.
Power.
That's getting closer.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that's
all right.
not dominion.
Right.
How about this one? Authority.
No.
Oh, I would say yes, definitely with that. I kind of semi agreed with you on the first four, but no, okay. Then the next one is control. I think that's also true because that's what dominion
No.
is.
Control is
it's a-
better. Well, control is better.
Okay.
Still a leap.
All
It
right.
is a leap.
Command.
Command what?
Well, that's what the dominion is you command something.
No.
Okay, here's the one. This is my favorite, and it's down to the end. And I'm just going to take a guess. I don't think Ed's going to like this one. So.
Oh, no. How about rule? I mean, that's in one of the definitions. Rule makes sense, right?
Yep.
To rule.
Right.
Okay. How about,
Govern might be a
Right.
good one.
how about dominance?
Dominance is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Supremacy.
Yeah.
Sovereignty.
Supremacy.
Reign.
Reign.
Is it rain?
All
Like
right.
REIGN. Come on.
Preeminence.
Not rain.
Preeminence.
Preeminence.
Okay,
I
I
don't
think
think
that one worked.
so.
I don't know. I'd almost have to look that up and see how it's
Best
defined.
I know, preeminence owns the dominion.
That's it.
All
I don't
right.
think I'm ever going to get 100%.
No, never. Now you're gonna have to do them yourself.
I don't
You look
thi-
those up. You're gonna need to sit down and say, well, what does that mean to me, and then do synonyms, and
Yeah.
then
No,
you'll
I-
get it
I-
right.
I
Then
do.
you'll get it
I
right.
really do like looking at those because it really kind of broadens your horizon, I think, the way some people think.
I don't think the English language wants you to win on that one.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to do a little compare and contrast thing, and this is it's a hard concept. I've talked to different people about this, and I don't know that I'm going to make my point, but I'm going to try, because they have been, Kamala especially, has been talking about how Trump has said he's used the military against Americans he called the enemy from within. Okay, so what did he mean when he said the enemy from within? Did he describe that? As a matter of fact, he did. But
Well, I was going to say, best I know, the left thinks he's that, right? That's what all their trials, all their stuff is.
right, they seem to be acting in that manner. I would agree.
They're acting on it.
Right, I would agree with that. And what he said is, we have an enemy from the outside and we have an enemy from within. And in my opinion, the enemy from within are radical left lunatics, and I think you have to fight back. So there was definitely an implied threat, I guess you would say, that he's going to go after the enemy within. So that's not coming after you and me. If Kamala thinks she's the enemy within, then yes, he
is.
would be. Well, if that's what she thinks, then yes, he might be coming after her.
She raised her hand.
Yeah, I think so. So contrast that with, so now she's all upset because he's going to send the military and National Guard and blah 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 blah. I'm not sure how he's going to do that, but that's the implication. So contrast that with the leaked DOD document that details the plan for the military to execute non-compliant Americans. I mean, that's you and me, right?
So that's
could be you and me.
That's that old, Doug and I got into it over martial law, but it's the left's overreach. What happened in COVID? Them
So
giving
that is my point.
misinformation, selling their agenda without
So
letting
it's
people speak.
Okay for the Biden-Harris administration to have this going on in their administration and target Americans, us, you, me,
Right, people
and
disappearing off the streets
Exactly.
like communist Russia.
But Trump saying, hey, the enemy within being lunatics that are hurting our country, not just being Americans and
Right,
maybe
like
disagreeing.
like the guy who shot at him.
Right.
That's an enemy within.
Right. So that's who he's talking about. And I believe, and I can't say I know this from this article, but I believe he was also talking about going through due process to do that, as opposed to just shooting them on the street.
The left doesn't follow the law or use laws anyway.
Well, but my point is, that's my contrast. My compare and contrast is that she's worried about herself, and in the meantime, targeting Americans in her administration at the same time. Does that make sense?
So I would love to see like a survey.
I guess it doesn't make sense.
No, a survey of folks from other countries make that choice, right? Don't you think that inside, right, it's the same bias. We all have the same biases or same on that. I mean, I do. To me, the left is about wanting to manipulate you, wanting to control you just all the time. And the right is more about individual freedoms. That's just, it's a simple look, right? We get all complex on issues and, you know, it's not that big a deal. It's not that complicated.
But doesn't this bother you?
Yeah, but it's so right, but it's kept me from, I mean, it's bothered me since COVID when it happened.
I know, but now they're documenting into this
No, I'm totally with you. It's them, but everything they've done is all
directive is what it is. It's a directive.
Is all about control and manipulating regular folks.
So it's Directive 5240.01, expand the circumstances under which the DoD can assist law enforcement, including the use of lethal force. So GreenMed Info reported that the 2016 version of the directive did not mention lethal force. So again, my point is the Harris-Biden administration doesn't care about targeting Americans, but they care about being targeted. That's my point.
Well, this is everybody's chasing their tail on this.
No, we can assassinate.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, what I mean by that is first off, I think we all agree most everybody
Move your
has,
mic closer.
Oh, most everybody has an agenda, right?
Okay.
So now when you talk about somebody investigating somebody, they say, all right, the Dominion, we need to investigate it. Oh, they say, well, we'll investigate ourselves. It's impossible. And that's what we're talking about here. The enemy within. How are we going to find it? Because everybody has an agenda. How are you going to find that?
Well,
enemy?
Trump's planning on finding it. That's the problem. That's why they don't want him in.
Yeah.
Because he is willing to go in and look at the different factions that are
They aren't
there.
going to find it because everybody has an agenda.
That doesn't even make sense. How can they not find it because they have an agenda?
Because they have what their agenda is, and if it doesn't, in most cases, if somebody, it's like the police department. Can the police department investigate itself? No, it can't. They can say they can.
So hold on. I disagree with you, and I'll go there. For public policy, them investigating themselves, I agree. For public opinion and all that stuff. For them to learn about what happens and works and how their policies work and grow, just like Jan, you don't have systems, right? You have a process you use. And if something doesn't work, you re-look at it to see if that process works. That's
self-investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So it depends on what you're talking
positive for
about.
benefit.
Well, it
But if
depends.
you're talking about who did something, irrelevant.
Okay.
I guess in a way he's kind of agreeing with you. I mean, that's what I heard at the end, is that he's kind of agreeing with you there, because it just depends on what level it is. So that kind of goes to your agenda idea.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and how do you identify, as a body, how do you identify the enemy within? If they're the enemy, it's
I think by their actions.
it's
If they've broken the law,
okay, but
then
That's all there is. That all they can do is break the law.
Janice, you just defined it. If they've broken the law, but the enemy within, if they just disagree with you.
Oh, I don't think that's what's happening, though.
Yeah.
I think they're literally breaking the law.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that's what's happening. And I think a lot of people know that's what's happening. But because they need their livelihood or because they're fearful for their lives or
Many
their
people
family.
are naive on the power structures of those
Right.
relationships. Many people think that, oh, there's 1,000 people voting in a minute at Cold Springs. Oh, they'll fix that. You can tell them and
Right.
they fix that. Well, you tell them they don't fix it.
Right.
Right? They don't fix it, folks.
So I think that it is possible to do, but they always talk about the political will to do things, and there hasn't been a political will to fix anything.
And that's
They just all want to keep making money.
There's no so politicians on the right? Who's throwing themselves on a grenade?
They're not. They're
right,
not gonna.
Right. Sean
They're not gonna.
Hannity's the only
No.
one.
Oh, I don't even think he is really.
I know they can't.
No.
They can't. But I mean, who dies on an issue? Who puts all their eggs in one basket for people?
Nobody.
Nobody.
President Trump's as close as anybody, but mostly nobody.
Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of my little deal on the DOD, and I just want to make sure everybody knows about it, because if you're non-compliant, be careful. Just be careful. Not that you shouldn't be non-compliant, because sometimes we have to be. I just think that that's part of who we are as Americans, and that's how we became America, is by a revolution.
Right, those
So,
are federal. That's federal
kinda scary.
police. That whole federal police area of DOD, immigration, FBI, right? All the Homeland
Yeah.
Security stuff. If it's tilted and not
Okay,
truthful,
let me name an enemy within. Anybody that
You got an enemy?
Anybody that's a politician. And let me explain myself. How many politicians do you think that are going there? Number one, if they had a choice, I want to help people or I want to make money. What do you think that they go in there for?
how many presidents were not politicians?
Pardon?
How many presidents have not? You can't run a government without a president, and every one of them's a politician.
And every one of them ends up a millionaire. How did that happen?
So I don't know. So
They
let's
write
talk.
books.
Best I know, Reagan was a millionaire before he went in.
Oh yeah, well, with the exception, I think it's really funny about Trump, because several years ago, meaning 10 years ago or whatever, said we need somebody in Washington D.C. that's not a politician. So Trump raised his hand, and said, "Hey, I'll buy into that. He's not a politician." And now they're saying that guy is so unpolished.
Hold it. So I'm going to draw the line. President Trump did not raise his kids and his family on taxpayer money, right? He worked a business. Now, as an adult, right? I mean, he's working in retirement, right? I mean, if we want to say people have retirement, he's in his 70s. You retired?
Uh-huh.
Heck, and I'm retired.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, right, he didn't, like Bill Clinton, for instance, never worked for anyone besides the government.
Yeah.
Their perspectives are totally different because of it. I believe that
That's exactly
Republicans
my point.
value the outsider that Trump is, where Ms. Harris has never made money except on a taxpayer.
That's
Look
true.
look at all of the presidents that we're talking about. Every one of them, Bill Clinton, I think is a perfect example. He went in there, and when his wife wrote the book, she said they left the office poor. Well, that's a bunch of BS. They're multimillionaires.
They are now.
And they went in poor and they came out multimillionaires. How did that happen?
Do you remember when the Clintons left that they were taking all the furniture or something? I seem
Yeah.
to remember something about that.
That
I
was-
thought, what? What are
Stuff
they
that-
doing?
Well, you know what? Stuff that wasn't nailed was going to a side warehouse
Maybe
for
they were-
secondary sale.
My point was maybe they were poor and maybe they needed that furniture so that they could.
The bottom line, I think that the word politician, instead of meaning we're here to help help the masses, and I think I can do it. The word politician has morphed into something that is extremely negative.
Hold it. When did politician ever mean help for the masses?
I don't think it did. Not
I've
from when I
never-
was
that's what I'm
growing
saying,
up.
It's never meant
I mean, I
that.
remember there was a guy when I was living in Southern California, and I think he was on Channel 5, KTLA. And he was a really honest guy. I remember my mom, I was young, and my mom
was
said,
his-
you know,
What was his
I
name?
don't remember. He was
Stan
either,
Chambers.
is that who it
It
was?
could be.
My mom said, you know, he's way too honest. He'll never make it. And he didn't. Whoever it was, he didn't make it. And she was really sad because, you know, so politician at that time, and I was, you know, probably 9, 10 years old, it wasn't working, you know, it just wasn't working.
You know, it's so frustrating to see.
It's
And-
been the same though. It's a political class, and they don't have to tell the truth. They have their own rules,
Well, you
and
know-
God love them. I'm not going in there.
No.
Janice, we have to reinvestigate, and you did an excellent job. Oh, this is going back a couple of years ago. You had a list of
Oh, yeah, I
now,
remember
how
that.
many. It was all politicians. That was both sides.
I'm
of the
sure I still
aisle.
have that list.
Yeah, and in the Supreme Court and president. I mean, you name it, it was all politicians. And you know, I can't remember what the number was, but the high degree of legal offenses that those people
And they were
had.
primarily sexual crimes. And that's the sad part of it, is that that's what that was identifying was, and they were congressmen, and they were local, they were state, they were national, you know, I mean, it was on every level. And you, of course, the public doesn't hear about that because the media is not paid directly necessarily, but they're paid in their own way.
They
to not
have to be
talk
paid
about that.
directly because it is so ridiculous.
Well, I don't know if they're paid directly. I have no proof of that, but
Yeah.
I know that they don't pay attention and they don't do their job. That's for sure.
They don't bring up like anything negative for people on the left right now. The Sunday shows this week were hilarious, right? Watching them. Fox had Maryland and Virginia governors, right, and talking about squeezing their voter rolls and
Right, right,
different
right.
things, which was pretty cool. NBC talked about women's basketball,
Oh,
led with that, the WNBA championships in women's sports. And CBS went off on a whole Wayne's story from like their success as an African American family, kind of Jackson like, how they went off and had their own documentary and stuff like that. But crazy twists on what's really happening. I thought it was
You know, you hit a sore spot with me. Isn't it amazing how they talk about we collectively as Americans, and they want to talk about people in this country. But as soon as you do, and now is certainly the time that they're doing it, well, the African Americans vote this way, and Mexican Americans vote that.
it's insulting.
It is.
It's
I
very
thought we were
insulting.
Americans. Why
Yeah.
are you bringing that up?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know that if a person is in a certain
old white guy.
yeah, that or old white gal, that they vote a certain way. I mean, I get that, and I understand the generalizations, but as a race, I think that that's really unfair, and I think that it shouldn't be done. That is racist to do that. You know, to even if it's true to some degree, there's always an exception to that, and we don't know. And how do we know? How do we know?
Yeah, I thought we had private votes.
Yeah, well,
yes,
you know.
secret votes.
But that wasn't always true, you know.
So
In the early days, you
in-
walked into a room and you spouted out who you were voting for.
but in business and in campaigns, right, you have to see your weaknesses among those folks, right? You're targeting sales, not color of people. So you target sales. It's the press thing. They just communicate it right
Right.
with people, and it becomes sexist.
Well, and I think that the press has suffered a lot since President Trump has started calling them out as fake news. And not every outlet is fake, but you know, it's certainly held them accountable.
That's like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 10 years
I know,
ago.
but it certainly made them accountable. That's for sure. So before we've got about, another 15, 20 minutes. Actually a little less than 15. And I want to talk about Ms. Kamala Harris because there was an article about why we're not going back is such a powerful statement, because apparently, at least from the time that Kamala announced the fact that she was running, that was one of her themes. They're saying it's not a campaign slogan. We're not going back, right? So
We're not. Well, right. I mean, the history. She owns it. She owns.
well,
it.
they're trying to say we're not going back to Donald Trump. We're not going back to make America great again, which I'm not sure
Well,
why you
that's-
wouldn't want to. but-
Right. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, even if you go back further and it was when America was great, isn't that good? I don't quite understand that. But that really is not my point. But that is what she was saying. We're not going back. Well, there was, again, I was doing a lot of Twitter stuff, and I don't usually do that, but I did in the last few days. And ironically, I found a tweet that described for us something that the Harris campaign claims is not true. But here's the page that says we're not going back. Forward together. Now, if you can see that on the screen, and if you're listening, then it says Communist Party USA, people and planet before profits. We're not going back, ... forward together. So,
She likes to work for the agenda, right? She likes to
This
work
was-
for the policies.
this was March 5th, 2021. That was when this was put out, and the whole article, it's the Communist Party. Karl Marx himself was keenly aware of the pivotal role. You know, they go on and on about all these different things, and they end with, we're not going back, forward together. So I looked up a couple of things and said, well, let's take a look at I want to go to that other screen so you can see it, because it shows you, let's see, not that one.
Oh, it's right above it.
Isn't that it? Yeah. We're not going back, forward together. No, Kamala Harris is not using a Communist Party slogan. No, Harris isn't using Nazi-rooted phrasing. How Harris is not going back message seeks to counter Trump's whatever, right? So how come the media is coming to her?
They come to her rescue
to her
five different
rescue,
ways.
right? And why is she still saying we're not going back, moving forward, right? Because let's face it, even if it's the best slogan in the world, if you know that the Communist Party used that and you're in America, don't you think maybe you'd reword it? There's lots of words and she's good at word salad. So why wouldn't she reword that statement instead of continuing to use it?
I know why.
Tell me why.
Because she likes plagiarism.
Oh, that was the latest thing that they did. But this particular thing is pretty serious.
Well, and it also shows to me,
Because her
again,
father
remember-
was a
remember-
Marxist.
Remember Hillary Clinton was the smartest gal in the room? Well, I'm going to tell you not. And then Kamala Harris, look at the actions. Actions, scoreboard speak louder than words. And she's not that bright, folks.
Well, but the point is that here's a woman, and again, you know, you can say, well, she's not in charge of all of that. This is her campaign. Yeah, well, but I'm the CEO of my campaign.
That's right.
And I'm going to say, hey, guys, let's change this up a bit.
And basically,
Right?
she's saying anything she wants to say. There are no guidelines, no limits, nothing too crass. It's
Right.
horrible.
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump's tagline. You know, make America great again.
Which one, Wacky Jackie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, a good friend of mine that is just as
Oh, he's got a phone call.
I do
Please
too,
silence your
Doug.
phone.
I do too get challenged with MAGA when they go, extremist MAGA. I go, 10 years ago, that's the way life was. That wasn't extremist. It was.
Right.
Right? You're the extremist. Make
Yeah.
America great again is like old-fashioned, kind of old-school rules.
Which goes with her
Well-
saying of we're not going back, which is
Right.
what she's saying. And I personally don't understand why we wouldn't want to go back to good times.
Yeah.
I mean, in a
Well,
nutshell.
This friend of mine, he's just as red as the rest of us. I mean, he's very conservative. He says that slogan of Trump's is very offensive to me. He says, I think we have a damn good country. So make things good. It's pretty darn good now. Certainly there's some things that needed to be worked on.
That's voter apathy, man. That guy needs a shock, like one of those bolts in the
He
arm.
hasn't looked around and seen the people coming over the border, the sex trafficking that's going on.
Well,
He's voting,
I mean,
he's
you know,
voting Camilla and Wacky
his
Jackie.
his
Okay.
life might be perfect, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that, and God bless that he has a good life, but you need to look beyond yourself and say, yeah, but is it as good for everybody else, or do they have the same opportunity I had, right? And they don't.
Let me qualify him a little bit more, and maybe you'll understand. He's an attorney.
Oh, well.
So that means he's not conservative. There's no conservative attorney out there.
Sorry, attorneys. We have to bag on you, though.
Best
The
I
whole
know,
world does.
Best I know, Republicans have tried to keep him at arm's length for a long time.
Well, no, I pretty much agree with Janice about, yeah, you know, you're right, but there's a lot of things that we need to work on. And one of the big ones, and I just don't understand that one thing, illegal migration, that single issue, if you vote for Kamala, you're going to get another 10 million people during
Right.
her administration. And then it's really going to, they're going to be, this country will be close to 30%, 35%.
Well, I don't know if you saw the clip with Bill Clinton where he was talking about illegal immigration and how bad it was. And then he's talking about how our birth rates are too low and we need them because of that. And I thought, wait a minute, everybody's out to abort. Of course our birth rates are too low.
Yep.
That doesn't have to happen.
No one talks about that. in
I
that
just can't believe
discussion.
that.
No one talks about that at all. And
It's
even
like-
on a global scale, population declines. Look at Japan.
Quit aborting all the babies. There are plenty of people that would love to have a child.
Well, and that argument doesn't even get a discussion.
I know.
But, you know,
I know. It's
so,
sad.
So many issues, unfortunately, over the past several years, women have pushed forward, have come back to bite us. And one of them you mentioned about 10 minutes ago when you say these transgender men becoming women and then competing in women's sports. That's not right. They are men. They might call themselves a woman, but they are.
It's not even worthy of discussion, right? It's like taking valuable airtime from
But
something productive.
But you know what? That's exactly what women wanted, equal rights, you know.
But
and
that's not equal rights.
what is it?
Not when you have a transgender.
Not
That's
when you have a
equal
guy
rights.
in
Well,
there.
He considers himself
no.
a woman, so
You're mixing metaphors here because the fact that and women are kicking up their heels. Look at the volleyball team, in Nevada. That they
God
they don't.
love those gals, right?
Yes,
Because they
absolutely.
stepped up when the school didn't have their back.
okay.
They stepped up. Now other schools had stepped up and done
Right.
that
I'm gonna
before,
get myself
but hey, I'm proud of you, NR.
I'm going to get myself in trouble with this. We like making solutions, and I have a perfect solution. You have women's sports, you have men's sports, and then you have weirdo sports.
Well, you are going to get yourself in trouble. That's Doug Ashby. Contact Doug. Not what's the story. We do not say that.
We will quickly move those calls to him.
We will. So the point is, though, that that the women's movement, at least in my eyes, was really, if I do the same job that you do,
Right.
I should get paid the same.
The women
If
don't
I-
want trannies
No,
either.
if I can't do what you do, I don't get paid the same. But by the same token, if you can't do what I can do, you don't get paid the same.
I couldn't agree more.
So I don't think that that's a really radical position to take for anybody. And I didn't think
absolutely.
it when it was starting out. Of course, it got morphed into other things, and it got,
because
know,
it became political.
right,
Yeah,
because it became political. I was never a mega feminist because I just couldn't go there because it didn't make sense. But it was very frustrating when you go and you're married and then you get divorced and then you try to go get a Sears card. And even though you've been contributing to the household, they look at you and say, oh, no, you're a woman. You can't have a
Or
Sears
mortgage.
card.
Oh, if you were a tranny, you can have one.
Yeah.
But that was the way it was, even in my early years. And that was crazy. I was like, what? This doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, you couldn't use a woman's income on a mortgage.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Well, that she might not always be having that income. Yeah, you're right. Well, we'll adjust when that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in my lifetime. Those things were discussed, right? I mean, for instance, like, oh, you're pregnant, right? That means you got to take time off, right? And that was real. That's bank logic, right? That's
Yeah.
real facts. But now that's gone.
Yeah,
But it was there in the early 90s.
it was.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't understand when you sign on the bottom line. What the banker was saying is you have no morality. You've pledged yourself to pay this loan. You've pledged yourself to pay this loan. You've signed on the bottom line. But what you're telling me, if something in your family happens, like your wife gets pregnant, then your morals went out the window and I'm going to foreclose. I am not going to make my house payment. I mean, what kind of
There's no logic
is
to
So
that.
here's the thing. Prior to the Great Recession in 2007, there were no excuses acceptable on mortgage.
That's right.
It didn't matter. You died, your husband died, you both
Didn't matter.
died.
They
Kids
don't
had
care.
to pay it. There
That's
was
right.
no grace period, no nothing for anything.
You got it.
The only thing positive that happened in the Great Recession was that now creditors have to talk to their clients about their challenges. That's a great thing.
Right.
But before that time, you were out. Didn't matter why. Didn't matter why parents got killed in the car, throw the
Well,
kids out.
Yeah, they didn't
there
care.
was no
one of the
sympathy.
One of
None.
the things that you're overlooking about bankers is they're stupid. And what I mean by that, I had a loan during the Great Recession of 07 on a piece of income property, and I can't remember what the interest rates were. It didn't matter, but the interest rate that I had was high, and the interest rates basically were cut almost in half to what that was. So I wrote letters, I made telephone calls, and I said, look, this is reality. You have a lot of repossessed homes in your portfolio. You do not need another one. You don't need mine. I am asking you to readjust my loan to prevailing rates. You know what their answer was?
Oh, I can only imagine. Did they laugh?
Yes.
Yes, because I know I had some struggles, and I had a banker that just roared in laughter when I started talking about my situation.
Well, what,
And I was a banker,
but
by the
isn't-
way.
Well, I was going to say, I is one. and
Yeah, I is
and I
one,
went
yeah.
upside down, and I lived to
What-
tell the tale.
Yeah,
What
me
could be
too.
What could be more logic? I'm coming to you. This interest rate is too high. If you cut it, I don't foreclose on this loan. You win, I win.
Hold it.
Yeah.
How do you? So your how do you see them winning by lowering their income? They're winning.
Yes, they are.
No. I understand your logic, but it's not true. They'd
Why-
rather foreclose and have it all.
Yeah.
What?
They got more money. Who
Wait
cares?
a minute. They foreclose, and I'm sure you remember. They say, "Oh my God, look at this inventory of
They didn't
homes that
care.
we're carrying."
They planned for it.
So
Oh, they planned for
Their
it.
plans
Trust
of
me.
25, 30, 40-year loan reverse mortgages are purchased, and they don't expect to get them for 50 years.
No.
It's a long-term play.
Yeah.
And
Well,
They're cold folks.
that's what, which is
Extremely.
And I was one of them, and that's why I'm out. I couldn't
Yeah.
take it.
I
I
went
couldn't take
away
it. I'm
from-
not that cold.
When you're talking to a banker, don't confuse them with the facts.
No,
My
that's
God.
exactly true. Exactly true. All right, gang, we are going to take a little break here. We are not going to shut down. We're going to keep the stream going. But we are going to, like I say, we're going to take a little break. I'm looking for the right thing to, so that I can get that other one off. Oh, you know what? I'll leave them both. So yeah, so don't go away. I'm going to mute us. And then we're going to bring Timothy Jon Reynolds on. He's the author of the 2 books I talked about early on. And he'll share his story with us. He's a great guest, so don't go away, or maybe go get a cup of coffee or whatever you need to do right now. And then we'll be back. So see you soon. Well, you'll still see us, but we're going to walk out there. Hey folks, it's What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host, and they're hearing a repeat. I may need to hire an engineer. This may be my problem.
I think I broke my eardrums online.
What can I tell you? Okay, so I had hour one, I had a little faux pas, and now we're in hour two, and I had another faux pas. I guess maybe I'm just going to get them all out of the way,
What?
right? Get
What?
it done.
We're an hour two.
You know what? That's just moving, right? When we're moving and doing stuff, we're less than perfect, but it's the goal that matters, right? We're
Well-
gonna make little mistakes. It doesn't have anything to do with the cause.
I always talk about edutainment, and it's education and entertainment all at the same time. So this is the entertainment part, right? There we go. All right. Well, I am very happy to say that Timothy Jon Reynolds is with us, and he is an author, and he has brought many of his books with him. I've got one of them that he gave to me at one point. Timothy came into What's the Story? Gosh, has it been a year?
It's been a year.
Yeah. So he says, I'd really like to come on your show. So here we are a year later. And I will tell you, he dogged me, which was good. Then I emailed him. He didn't get my email. So this has been one of those back and forth things that's been kind of interesting. But welcome to What's the Story?
Thank you.
All right. Perfect. So, Timothy, why don't you do a little introduction about yourself, your work, and kind of your background, because you have a very interesting background.
Yeah, I have a really diverse background.
Yes,
no
you
doubt
do.
About that. First part of my life was law enforcement, and it was a compelling, career. I did very well in it.
What does law enforcement mean?
Well, good question. So I started off working for Redondo PD when I was 18 as
What PD?
Redondo Police
Redondo,
in,
okay,
in Los
California.
Angeles. Yeah.
Does that count as real police?
Well, that's funny because it is a small department and there are so many dynamics in a small department. And it's actually the reason I never went on to be a cop. I worked for 3 years there as basically a gopher. I would deliver all the evidence to court, serve subpoenas, all the little stuff, right? But in that time, I got to know the dynamic of all of it. And I thought it was a little different than I imagined. I imagined camaraderie. I imagined a lot of people always having each other's backs, and that wasn't the way it was. And I just didn't know if I wanted to enter into that. And then Target made me a great offer after I graduated with a criminal degree. They said, hey, we got a job for you. And the job was awesome. And I took it. And I stayed there for 13 years. So when I say law enforcement, I was basically a cop without a gun, a citizen cop without a gun. I probably had more arrests than the average cop. I definitely had more felony arrests than the average cop. And the difference between us and cops are that we dealt with crime as it happened. Police deal with crime in retrospect. They show up after the crime, they take the reports, they do the investigation. We had crime happening. So we would be setting cameras and different things to catch. I was catching employees stealing, not customers. So I had a team of people to catch shoplift agents, but my job was they would drop me into stores that were bleeding. They're losing $1 million a year.
Didn't it give you great faith in the human condition?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, there's so many things, and I have a good heart. And there are times where California enacted the 3 strikes law and it changed our job completely, because now a guy that you're thinking you're arresting for a small time crime knows he has 2 strikes. I had one of them try and bite my finger off.
I knew somebody who suffered from that 3 strikes law, that he was an alcoholic, and
Yeah, it's
he
easy
ended
to,
up
yeah.
he ended up in jail.
Right.
Why don't they just go to 1 strike and then everyone would be scared all the time and they didn't stop crime?
Well, what I did, a lot of people don't really realize how much police work is really in a loss prevention manager job at Target. Okay, like Target just posted their losses for last year. It was staggering.
Don't we view that as law enforcement poor performance?
It's
Or
you know
a
what,
sad state of people?
It's actually more of a dynamic than you know. And this is the thing that really is confusing about it, okay? Target is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, okay? The reason that they went to this, and the reason I left the company, is because they started telling us not to arrest people. They told us to deter crime. Deter crime. So it's like,
How does
what?
one do that?
Yeah, exactly. So you make yourself like if there's a shoplifter in the store and they're like, even if they got a big TV and it's a felony, make yourself known, and make them dump it.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Walk
yeah.
around with a
Well, wait,
shotgun.
It's just a ridiculous.
That's what I do. Just a couple ceiling blasts.
Doesn't this beg the question, well, how's that working?
Yeah, right. So check this out. Check this out. The reason that they did this is because shoplifters had learned a little trick. Okay. One of my guys is following him on the floor, steals something. We're watching him, but the guy's really good and he dumps it. Okay. Then he goes out and we grab him and now it's a false arrest. And if there's a fight or we drag him back, everything compounds the lawsuit that's going to happen. So what happened is Target was so sick of paying these out that they changed their policy. And I literally told them when I left, good luck. Good luck. This place is going to become a sieve. You're going to lose so much money in this stance. We are the blue line that keeps it in your building. And if you don't believe that, you're going to find it out. They just posted their inventory loss numbers at 800 million.
Oh, wow.
800 million?
Yep. So, by them taking that stance, they endangered the agents that were working with them, for them, and they kneecapped their own self. But before all that, what I would do is I would go into a store. They would drop me in. The last combat store I had, that's what they were called, was the Mountain View, California store. So that was 1992. The closest city to Mountain View that year was East Palo Alto. East Palo Alto was the murder capital of the United States in 1992. They had 52 murders for 100,000 people that lived there.
What was the name of it?
East Palo Alto. Right across the freeway from Millionaire Row, Palo Alto.
From Palo Alto, Stanford.
Yeah, just over the freeway is East Palo Alto. So they were the murder capital of the United States when they gave me that store. I could write a book about that next year of my life.
Did they give you a gun too?
No, we don't. See, that's the whole thing that people don't understand. I did the same exact job as a cop without a gun. So I can't tell you how many guns I had pulled on me and how many incidents. And that year in that Mountain View Target, I could write a whole book.
I think they should start using paint guns because it's just, you can shoot those people. At least they got to wash it off.
How about if they just didn't? Here's the whole point to my diatribe here. When billionaires have a problem, what do they do? What do? If I'm a billionaire owner and these nuisance lawsuits are screwing me over, I'm going to go and lobby my congressman and my senator, and I'm going to get them to change the law so that there's a cap on those false arrest things, $5,000 cap. If Target would have done that, they could have just carried on as normal. So why, if I'm sitting here as this, a schlub here, how come they're lawyers? How come they're people? Why can't you tell me they couldn't think of this?
So I kind of don't think that's good, right? That's what they've done now. And now they got problems, right? Because everyone can go in and get how many dollars worth and get out.
That's
That
right.
was just kicking it down the road. Why don't they just stop it?
That's what we were. We were that line. I can't tell you how many we'd have to have a 2-hour conversation just about Target for me to tell you everything that went on in that place and the level of. I broke up in Mountain View. I broke up a shoplifting ring, and they were hitting 3 stores and just doing returns. They were stealing razors. Okay, I figured it out and I broke them up. I'm sitting on my desk one day and my phone rings. I pick it up. You dead. I said, excuse me? She goes, you dead. My man just got out of quitting. I have a contract on you. You dead. That's the kind of shit we would get,
But that's regular now, right?
I know.
Unfortunately, look at the threats that politicians get and regular folks.
You know what my answer was?
It's an angry society.
I told her, well, when he shows up, look for the really long line and get in the back, and hung up on her.
Oh, nice.
But a lot of people don't realize that that's real cops and robbers stuff. And they stopped it though. And once they stopped it, it didn't take very long for the thieves to figure this all out.
Right.
There was a relationship between the store, the PD, and the DA. We had I'm not going to call it symbiotic relationship, but we had a understanding between all of us. We made the arrests, the cops supported us, the DA supported them, and that's why the stores weren't losing millions and millions of dollars. But all of them have went to this whole new way of looking at things, that cost them so much money and caused all these situations we're seeing.
Wow.
That's likely when I ceased to be a consumer.
See, but my whole thing is this. Target started all of it. Target cannot go, oh, we're not being supported by the DA. No, you guys started it.
Right.
And you sent the message to the DA that this isn't really that important for us.
There you go.
They're taking you for your word.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's really sad.
So you moved from the LA area
I did.
and progressed to the San Francisco Bay Area. Which is,
I did. I got hurt.
So is that progressing or degressing?
What happened was,
I'm not sure.
what happened was I got hurt really bad during an arrest, and my wife freaked out and said, "Get another job." So that's how I got in the medical field. I literally fell.
Wives have a way of doing that.
Well, that,
Being the minority in the room.
I'll tell you what, that just adds credibility to the old expression, you want to be right or you want to be happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I don't know. I'm
Exactly.
single and happy and don't have to listen to anything. So we'll change.
A lot of my career has been just falling ass backwards into stuff. So I went to find a new job, out of my career, and there was a medical supplier, distributor, and they needed a warehouse manager. And because of my inventory background, they hired me on the spot. Okay, so I'd worked there about a month, and maybe 2, and they have a lab, and then they have my warehouse, and so the lab is all IV equipment. It's all high tech, super high tech IV equipment that's all specialized. And these guys have a BA that are doing that, So one of the techs goes off to tech school in New York and just crashes and burns, parties the whole time, bad reputation, makes the company look bad. So I'm in my warehouse one day and I get a phone call from the director of Biomed. He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Okay." He goes, "Hey, do you think you could do that job?" I was like, "Oh, you mean the job that those guys have a BA in electronics for?" Yeah, maybe, I don't know. He goes, well, we're going to fire Al, and we think you can do that job. So we're going to train you for it. And if you don't work out, we'll put you back in your old job, but we're going to get rid of him and give you his job.
Well, that's a good deal.
I have never
right?
fallen backwards into anything like that.
Yeah.
So as it turned out, duck to water. They fired Al, and it was my thing.
Did you find out he was the one that gave you the death threat?
He was an odd guy, that's for sure.
So what's the job?
The job was a biomedical repair tech.
Okay.
And so I worked specifically on IV equipment. And that is where this all comes into play, this wound drug. So what happened was
So this being
Tropannos.
Tropannos
Is this word.
Tropannos. There it is.
Yeah, and so
It
this
has
is
to be Greek.
this is the drug. This is the drug. It's called Prontosan. So I just scrambled the word Prontosan into Tropannos.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to tell my story here. So what happened was about 12 years ago, the B. Braun Corporation came out to one of our sales meetings and said, "Hey, we have this established drug in Germany, and we can't sell it here. And we know you guys can sell ice to an Eskimo, so we want to find out why we can't sell it." Now, the bigger bottle of this, how they got it through so quickly without white papers, is the bigger bottle is a debridement device. So it got through the U.S. because the ingredients are so innocuous. They're just 3.
But Ryan, could they go, "Hey, we want to sell more"? Do they say, "Hey, we got some stuff that can help people"? No, we got some stuff we need to sell more of to your people because it doesn't do anything.
Well, they can't
I'm
understand.
serious. That's serious.
I know. And they can't understand why the wound clinics and the hospitals are kicking them out. So they come to us and say, "Hey, figure this out for us." So within a month, every one of my other 11 counterparts dropped this like a hot potato because they couldn't sell it. Okay, but what happened to me? I went to a business meeting in Miami, And I was in the shower and I reached back toward the back of my haunches there and I had a big lump. And I was like, what the heck? And I squeeze it and out pops a rose thorn. I had been doing gardening and that rose thorn
Oh.
snapped off in my leg. So I'm in this world and I know what a staph infection is and I have one. So it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, okay, so by the time I get a hold of my doctor tomorrow on the West Coast and he gets anything to the pharmacy, I won't even be able to get antibiotics into my body for about 24 more hours. With a staph infection, that can be a fatal decision. It's not something you do. So I was teetering on going to the ER that night. Then I remembered I had a bottle of this. So I went down to Walgreens and got a patch and squirted about half the bottle into the wound and patched it up. 3 a.m, I squirted the other half in and patched it up. Woke up at 7, gone.
Wow.
Cured a staph infection in one night. So I have friends that are, nurses. And I even have friends that are wound nurses, okay? And they're like, you don't know you had a staph infection. You didn't have no staph infection. And I'm like, yeah, I had 2 of them. I spent 3 days in the hospital because of a staph.
I mean, if I say best I know, that's where you get them, right? The only place you can get staph infections in a medical facility.
Good point. And that is, I was alluding to you earlier, and I'll tell you about it in a minute about that. But so this wound drug they brought us, and I seen this miracle in my own body, so I never dropped it. The owner of my company wanted me to drop it. They used to make fun of me because it wasn't making money. If it's not making money, it's worthless, right? But I worked.
Well, unless it can cure staph.
Well, I know, right?
The
It's
logic.
insane.
This is the epitome of the logic
It's
I see.
insane. So, the thing is, we're not going to call this a drug from this point on. This is a super drug, and I kid you not. It's a super drug. So, after my curing a staph infection in one day, I became a big believer in this. And because of a lot of my IV clients are long-term care facilities, every long-term care facility has what's called a subacute ward. Okay, and those are the people that are teetering on going back into the hospital. They got major problems. A lot of them are wounds. So what I would do is I would go in and I would train the nurses on the IV equipment that they bought. And then at the end I would say, hey, by the way, do you have any stalled wounds? Any wounds that you can't move forward? Oh yeah. So wounds come in 4 stages. And they would say, oh yeah, I have a stage 4. It's just horrible. It stinks to high hell and it won't cure. And this person's miserable. And so I set them up. I get what they call the DON, the director of nursing, and I convince her to do this, to follow my treatment option, right? Every single time we bring them back. Every single time. I have been in facilities where I've caught them taking the plant. I was walking down the hall and they're taking the plant out of the room. They took the planter out. It was a plastic one. They filled the thing full of kitty litter. I'm watching it. I said, what are you doing? They said, we have a stage 4 and it's so putrefied that it's stinking up the whole ward. So we're trying to absorb the odor. So the one super miracle about this drug is because those wounds won't heal, they have a complex biofilm film over them, okay? Impenetrable to normal meds. That's what this stuff does. It destroys that biofilm layer, okay? Once the biofilm layer is gone, the wounds heal.
It's like that poop dog spray. No smell makes the odor go away when you can eat it and all that stuff.
So this particular place, I had to come back a couple times. I was coming back the next day. So I always carried it in my car. So I went and hooked them up and I got them to agree to do it. Next day, odor's gone off the leg. Next day. Okay, this stuff works so amazing.
Aren't these people doctors and stuff?
Oh,
Aren't they supposed
yeah.
to know this? I mean, they
So-
took this from less than a BA, right?
So
They're
this is-
medical.
This is my whole thing as a person, okay? For me, everything is about why. I want to know why. I want to know why that doctor doesn't want this, okay? So it's not hard to figure out, okay?
It's always about the money.
It is, and it's also, it is, and this is the doctor being just a horrible person, okay? Because what happens is if you go into a long-term care facility with 1, 2, 3, or 4 stage wound, okay, if that wound goes worse on their watch, they have to pay for it until they get it back to the stage to which you came in. Okay. So the doctor doesn't care about curing you. All he cares about is keeping you on stage 2. As long as you don't go to stage 3, he gets paid. Everybody's happy. He doesn't care about the misery of the patient. He doesn't care. I'm telling you, he doesn't care.
Well, I don't. So that's my base default understanding, right? That's what I believe.
Yeah, no,
You're not telling me anything. You're
I've
singing
proved-
to the chorus here.
I've proved it, time and time again. And when it comes to hospital systems, how they cover it up is because they're buying drugs from manufacturers that give them rebates. And this drug will replace the 5 drugs they're buying in that formulary. By the way, there's a competitor for this drug called Santil. It's $280 for a bottle this size. My cost for this bottle is about $20. So we're talking a huge amount of money that this displaces, okay? So I've had situations where St. Mary's in San Francisco, I went there for an IV fair. I was making sure that the nurses understood how to do epidural on a pump. And during a break, I went around and found the wound book. So I'm talking to the lady and asked her if she's ever heard of this. And she says, no, I've never heard of it. And I said, I can't believe this. I mean, this is a major metropolitan hospital. You're a wound nurse. How can you never have heard of this? She says, I'm not a nurse. I'm the director.
Oh my goodness.
So, right, where do these people go to school and don't get the information, which
So I have to convince her now to try this, right? And she tells me, literally tells me, Tim, if I had a dime for every time somebody showed up with their magic salve that was going to cure all my problems, I'd be a rich woman. And I literally had to just push it. I said, do you think I would literally be sitting here in front of you telling you this if I to look like a fool? No way. So I did. I convinced her. 30 days later, I get an email from her. The gentleman that was going to have his foot amputated was released to long-term care. I still got the email. The woman who was going sepsis is back home, and she didn't even require a skin graft.
Wow.
Okay, she says, I'm going to immediately take all my findings down to our infectious and disease control boards, and we're putting this on our formulary. So the next 24 hours of my life after reading that email was the most elated I've ever been in my life. St. Mary's is part of 27 hospitals. I mean, talk about the money, right? I mean, I was a salesman.
Sure.
I was a sales manager. That was the biggest sale I ever made. And it was insane.
well, it was a concept smart sale, which went down the hole.
Well, so I'm waiting and I'm waiting for her to get back to me and I'm waiting for her to get back
Gotta
to
love
me.
big.
And I try and reach out to her and she's not getting back to me.
Yeah.
So I go there to her office and 10 minutes later, 2 security people show up and escort me out of the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't have direct answers, but what I have to do is kind of figure it out. Now I was an investigator, right? I put it all together. So she did what she said she was going to do. She brought it down to the infectious and disease control boards. And one of the bean counters got wind of it and went, what? You're going to try and replace the 5 items we're buying from McKesson? McKesson gives us a $50,000 rebate check every year. You out of your mind? Get that out of here. And they kick it out.
I was gonna say $50,000 ain't nothing in
That's
today's
it.
world.
This is the crazy part about all of it. The bean counters are supposed to be people that are good at math. They're being overcharged 70% to buy something.
If
to
you
get
don't
18
spend
on the
it, you
back.
don't. Doesn't cost you, right?
It's
You know how
insane.
they are.
Right.
It's complete insanity. They're overpaying by 30% at least to get 18% on the backside, and that's a win instead of just buying the product for the right price. Plus, this replaces almost everything in their formulary. And for pennies.
Insanity. It's insanity.
It
Don't
is
get sick,
insanity.
folks.
So after
don't get
after
sick.
10 years, after 10 years of this,
Tim,
that
can you go back again about these death threats?
well, that's funny you mentioned that, okay? Because that's what this book is. Okay, I failed at selling this because of the established medical world. But I thought it would be interesting to write a book about what would happen if I was successful.
Oh, interesting.
And that's what this book is about
right.
somebody doing what I tried to do and actually doing it and what would happen to them. So that's what the book's about.
That's awesome. What a great lead in.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, right? So now, like after the whole COVID thing, you can see, we actually have visuals of the trench coats and those guys, right? It's not a stretch. I mean,
It's not.
I believed it 25 years ago.
Well, I also tell another story in this book, not just mine. One of my friends here in town, I can't mention his name. He's a doctor, he's a scientist, he's a surgeon. He has a lot of titles. He's retired now, so he's basically a country doctor. And I tell his story in here. His story is shocking, compelling, and almost unbelievable. You know, it is almost unbelievable what he's discovered. And
I just think it's easy scoreboard, right? I mean, our longevity is among the worst in the world. I mean, it just, right? You can use regular metrics to measure their success in the medical profession, drug profession with longevity, richest country in the world, and yet we're 35th on the list of
that's right.
longevity. Means they're maybe feeding us a little too much up front.
Well, Chris discovered something that is shocking, you know, and I'm not going to say his last name.
I was going to say, be careful.
He's discovered something that's very shocking, and it has to do with Lyme's disease, and it has to do with what he discovered about it, and it's terrifying. It's COVID terrifying. You know, if you look at when Lyme disease came out, when did it come out? You're a bright guy. Tell me when Lyme disease happened.
Lyme disease. I
Give
mean,
me- give me an estimate.
it'd be a total guess, right? But Lyme disease, that's the tick
been around a
thing,
long time.
right? So I'd say 1875.
No. So 1977,
I'm
would've gone
100
with
years
you.
early. I'm 100 years early.
I think it was 1977 when the Lyme, Connecticut breakout happened. Okay. So my doctor friend, scientist friend here, he has done research and they have found Lyme's disease in sarcophagus. Lyme disease is ancient. It's not a new disease, but when people start tinkering with it and try and weaponize it,
Yep.
and
Well,
then let it out, that it becomes what it is now. And that's what happened. If you look at Lyme, Connecticut, and you look at its proximity to Plum Island, it's less than 30 miles from Plum Island. How did nobody connect this dot?
Well, the thing that's crazy to me is how come they don't collect all those things and drop them on Russia, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is we use them on ourselves, on our own people, but we didn't know no one else gets any.
Well, that's why COVID was so dangerous. I mean, what would have happened if we would have determined that that they let that out at their lab?
Best I know, there's people in our government who thought that, right? I mean, there's people like
I
me who
think
had
it-
to fight to not get shots.
I
Fight,
absolutely
put our reputations at stake, not to get a shot.
Yeah, I firmly believe China let that out. And I don't necessarily believe that it was by accident.
Right.
A lot of people think, oh, it was an accident. Okay, so here's something that people don't think about. Okay, so we're automating our world at an exponential rate. Okay, AI, automation is replacing jobs, right? Exponentially. Okay, so China used to need 1 billion people to pull all the levers and do all the switches. But seeing they've automated half of their country,
Right.
half of their jobs, they don't necessarily need 1 million people anymore. And that's the way I think.
Well,
you
they
know?
use a lot of people, right? They move their homeless right in with existing people, right? If they got rooms, and they have old folks growing flowers in intersections, right? I mean,
It's a crazy thing, but I wouldn't put anything past them. I wouldn't. And I believe that they needed to own up for that, and they never did. China gets away with everything. There's an undeclared war between our two countries right now, and you don't hear Biden saying anything about it.
but like the lab in Wuhan, right? To go there, right? We can't have them here. They have them in Ukraine too. So we pay extra so they'll take care of dangerous stuff that we won't do in our own country.
But they're horrible.
But that's us. That's
Right.
us, not them.
So here's what's tell me what would happen.
Before you go there,
Yeah.
I want you to talk about your second book because you talked about the first one, and I want to make sure everybody knows about the second one as well, because I can see this is going to go a long way here.
Well, Control of the Game I wrote because, and this is the one thing about Donald Trump that needs to be, this needs to be brought out more. And I don't know why Donald is not doing this. Nobody else is trying to denuclearize us. Trump actually was doing a pact between Russia and China and trying to denuclearize us. Nuclear weapons are the greatest threat to us. And what's happening right now with what Biden's doing in Ukraine is, so what happened is we're giving them weapons, right? And instead of a fair fight, we kind of hedged it a little for Ukraine. So now what is Russia doing? They're bringing in North Korean troops.
Biden's never won a war.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Never won a conflict.
But
Never won anything.
But this is about the word escalation. Okay, we were at a level ground and let them fight it out. But no, we had to hedge them, and NATO's giving them, and they're even talking about giving them long range weapons. I mean, give me a break. So we set this up.
You can't limit them.
So now North Korea is bringing troops in. Okay, so what's NATO's answer going to be? Tell me. It's happening right now.
So the answer should be to let them fly. Let them fly deep into Russia and blow those folks up.
Well, my whole thing is this. I think
you can't
NATO's,
give people a weapon and say, "Oh, guess what? You can't drive it on Sunday."
Right. Well, I think NATO's going to respond, and I think NATO's going to respond by putting troops there, because Russia's whole thing was NATO can't go to Ukraine because bringing outside influences, but now they're bringing North Korea in, which is another move on the chessboard. Okay, so what's NATO's move on the chessboard? So every inch that we're doing in this madness is inching us toward this. It's inching us toward nuclear destruction, because if we keep escalating, at some point, someone's going to use one. Someone's going to use one.
Oh, it's going to happen for
gonna
sure.
happen.
But
I
that
think
was
it's gonna be on-
destined a long time ago, not today, right? Once you have 50 countries with them, or however many countries have them.
There's, I think, 5.
And they've had them for how long? Over 50 years.
Well,
Somebody's going to use one. Someone's going to get stolen. Somebody's going to take it. It's inevitable.
I agree. Well, you figure Russia stole and China stole all their nuclear secrets from us. India.
But we let it happen.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's
We're the
right.
fools.
India did the same thing from the Swiss, and because the Pakistanis had it and they had stole it all, and India was afraid of Pakistan, so they went and stole it. So there's 4 countries out there that have all these bombs. But my whole thing is about our nuclear deterrent. This book is about our nuclear deterrent.
So, Ed, you had mentioned about nuclear weapons and this and that. In this country, I don't know what the official count is now, but there's something like 8 or 10 nuclear bombs that they can't account for.
Oh yeah, Russia too.
Pardon?
Russia too.
Yeah.
Anytime
They
you
just
have
don't
an
know where they
inventory
are.
list of thousands of things, they're going to lose them. You think a car dealer doesn't lose a car from now and again?
In this book, I
Harbinger of change.
cover the Russian stolen suitcase nukes that are not accounted for, is in that book. So my whole thing is this, okay? We have, if you count them all, 71 nuclear submarines. We have 54 fast attack submarines. We have 14 ballistic submarines. It all adds up to 71 nuclear subs. Each one of those subs can wipe the world out. What do we need 71 of them for?
Best I know, you can pull one right here and run power for northern Nevada and northern California. No, serious.
So
the nuclear power of one of those things could support northern California and Nevada, and it'd be clean, no dirt. Anyway, I'm for nuclear power.
I am too, but now hear me out. Okay, so you said the key to this whole thing. Someone's going to use one of these bombs, right?
It's inevitable.
Okay, so you ever see any of those old TV shows where the guy's got the dynamite all around him and the hostages, and he's got a dead man switch?
Yeah.
So when you get shot, your finger comes off.
So
of it,
those were
and kaboom.
1980s commercials. Or
I think it was
1980s.
70s. I think it was.
But, all right, but nothing recent.
It was like I remember seeing it as a kid, like Streets of San Francisco or something like that, right? So the guy comes out of the bank and he's got the bombs all around him and he's got the dead man switch, so you can't snipe him. Okay, boom! As soon as he falls to the ground,
So I don't
everyone
think so.
dies.
I mean, when people started not caring about their own lives in these situations, you just got to support that.
Yeah, but if they're surrounded by 10 hostages, you can't just shoot them and let them all die.
Right.
So,
He's got a question.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
How many on a nuclear submarine? How many people are on it? How many? What's the crew?
You know, I think it's around 30, but I'm not positive on that. I have a buddy that was on
All
one.
right. Well, just if you look at the logistics of it all, times the number of submarines that we have, that many people,
Mistakes.
not only there's going to be some goofy people in there.
Right. Thank
They
you.
aren't all going to think alike. They aren't going to be rah America. There is going to be a loose nut.
You
in there.
are absolutely right. So, what happens when those nuclear submarines go off? Where are we?
So bet you dimes to dollars, right? We are. That was you, Chi. That was you, Vladimir Putin. That was you, Ayatollah. That was you, right? It wasn't us. It was them.
If one of those subs ever goes off, it means we're already dead.
Yeah.
They're a nuclear deterrent. There are guaranteed to our enemies of mutual destruction.
But to Doug's point, you got a lot of different people on these things.
And Doug's point is my
Yeah.
point. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm supporting Doug
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so here's my thought and why we've never thought of this. Okay. Why have 71 nuclear submarines with bombs spread out all over the world? That so many. And not only that, I'm a little older, or maybe we're all the same age, we're right around. So do you guys remember the movie Failsafe? Do you guys remember the movie Failsafe? Please tell me you've seen Failsafe.
I think I have.
You would not forget it if you did. It was a black and white movie with Henry Fonda.
If I did, I probably saw it 60 years ago.
You would have remembered.
know.
It would have stuck in your brain forever. It was Henry Fonda's greatest movie, and Walter Matthau too. The premise was this. Back in the day before ICBMs, we had nuclear bombers, and we would send them out to the edge of Russia, and then they would get a code that would send them back. Okay? We had a box in those jets called failsafe box. And if that box ever told the pilots to attack Russia, nothing can stop the pilot. They've been trained that once they get their orders to bomb, they do not stop. Nothing can bring them back. Your wife on the radio pleading with you, please, no, it doesn't matter.
Is that
You're-
where Slim Pickens rides the bomb now?
No, that is actually one of the things most people don't know. So that movie is what was the name of it? Dang it. I can't pull it now. But anyways, the movie came out. It's identical storyline to Failsafe. Okay, but it was done in a campy fashion, and they let it out 6 months before Failsafe. It's almost the identical storyline. Okay, Dr. Strangelove, and it's almost the identical storyline. So when Failsafe came out 6 months later, it didn't get the credit that it should have got. It was one of the greatest movies of all time. So the premise that I was getting to is when the planes get out to their targeted destination, they got an order to go. The failsafe box went off and it told them to bomb Moscow because Russia was trying to screw with our scrambling stuff. And because we're always tinkering with each other's, they accidentally set it off.
Well, that's exactly what's
There's
going to
no
happen.
stopping
I
it.
don't think there's any denying
Okay,
that that's
so-
going to work.
So my idea is this, and it's what I wrote in this book. Why don't we just have one bomb? If it's a dead man switch anyways, and we're dead before the subs ever go off, why not just put a 600 megaton bomb in the bottom of the Smoky Mountains and just, if anything happens to us, it goes off and y'all lose. Then we don't have to maintain 71 nuclear submarines for the same purpose. It's the same exact thing. It's a
No,
dead
it's
man.
not.
So
No,
this
but
is
you
control
don't
of the game,
understand.
right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about individual power. I, for whatever reason, am not into the power dynamic, but every other A1 male is, right? In any political, Trump and Are you telling me they're not fighting over who pushes that button? You know, every person who's ever been president is revered. The 30 or 45, 6 of them now.
You know,
It's all about power, and it's about power
know-
everywhere. And yeah, we just need to take that chip out of people's head.
Tim, you probably know more about this than I do, but so correct me if I'm wrong in anywhere of this. And I think it was Bill Clinton. We used to have, like you just said, mutual destruction. Here comes our, Russia launches to us, we see it, we launch to them. They see us launch, they launch another, and there's this mutual. Well, Bill Clinton negotiated a deal where if Russia sends a rocket over here, whatever, and destroys one of our cities, we do not react to it. We call them and say, did you mean to do this, or was that an accident?
that's fail-safe coming out in real life.
Yeah, so, but anyway.
So that's fail-safe, but you got American people
That-
with whatever, 8, 10, 15
course,
million people
our-
burned
our
to death,
Yeah.
and they're not going to respond?
So you know what the
No, that's our illustrious news media never reports anything like that. But no, that's
So in failsafe, Henry Fonda has to call the president of Russia to explain what happened and explain that this wasn't intentional. We're not trying to go to war with you. And he got Russia to admit back that they were tampering with our stuff. So the only reasonable trade-off was we had to take New York at the same time Moscow went.
well, yeah. Let's see. But
So
with
as
the-
a
That was the
leader,
end of
as a leader
that
of
was the end of the
people-
book.
So right, as an
Or the story.
individual here on the show making decisions, it's easy. But when you're a leader of people, when you're representing people, you can't take that shot, right? You got to shoot back.
Yeah, oh yeah. You know what?
well,
I
but
think
that's-
everybody needs
that's
to
not the
watch.
legislation now.
So hold on, I would like to see that legislation. I don't think it's real. I think he might have had that arrangement while he was president, but there's
So
no
I-
they keep the red
And
phone
I don't
here
know.
and there.
It was not. It was not widely known because our illustrious news media didn't serve them well, and they didn't want to scare the folks, and they wanted that particular.
Yeah, we're too dumb to be able to handle any of that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the UFO thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the above. We're going to run out of time here, guys.
Yeah, but we're so smart and we know everything. We can't stop water from washing our roads away. What are you talking about, man? We gotta get a clue.
I know. We could go on and on about that. HARP and all sorts of things, right?
Yes, correct.
So, but since we aren't really, did you bring a book today for the
I
Book
did.
Blitz? All right, I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Then I'm going to have
Okay.
you talk more about your books because we didn't.
Actually, I this is a book from last time, and we didn't do a book.
Yeah, I know. We
I
keep
know,
running
so-
out. We get
but-
good guests.
Believe it or not, it's applicable to both shows.
Perfect.
And it's one of the things, again, that I try to do. It leads into what we're talking about. The name of the book is, of all things, Government Gangsters.
Oh, I
The
know who
deep
this is.
state-
Good old Cash.
Pardon?
Cash Patel.
Yeah. The deep state.
It's in my store right here, by
Is
the
it
way, if
really?
you want it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It says the truth and the battle of our democracy.
Absolutely.
September 26th of 23.
Yep.
This is from the Wall Street Journal. It was a bestseller. A government gangster, a former top official in the White House, the Department of Defense, Intelligence Community, and the Department of Justice pulled back the curtain on the deep state, revealing the major players and tactics within the permanent government bureaucracy, which has spent decades stripping power away from the American people and their elected leaders. Based on his firsthand knowledge, Patel, who was the author, reveals how we can defeat the deep state, reassess self-government, and restore our democracy.
Nice.
It had 1,631 reviews, all of them naturally very high.
Excellent. Yeah. And if you're looking for
Nice.
that book, we have it in the store. So come by and pick it up. Or
Yeah,
call
but
us and we'll ship
we
it.
need about like 16 million readers.
I think I'm going to pick up that book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's
do
a good
more.
Right up my alley.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so talk a little bit. You've got more than one book here. You've got Harbinger of Change. You've got Control of the Game.
So Harbinger of Change is a book series that I wrote because it was my first one. And I wanted to create the Bourne identity again. I love Robert Ludlum. And I wanted to write a book that had that feel, that drive, that, that's what I wrote, and it is. And so I was actually War and Peace when I finished it. So I had to break it up into two books. So there's the Harbinger of Change, and then the next one is the Meek Shall Inherit. In these books, I just wanted to create that Bourne identity feel. Okay. But in the process of the second and third book, I had kind of a life epiphany, and I did a lot of research on our economy and China. And so you think about this. In the 1950s, if I was even to go out and say, I'm moving my company to China, you'd be
Yeah.
in jail. So how did we go from that to companies being able to leave our country to go to China?
I agree
So
with
when-
that question.
So when you go into, if you
Yeah.
actually look at the true definition of treason, okay, treason is hurting your sovereignty and empowering another. Okay, so every company that left this country to go to China is a treasonous traitor, and they
And
need
so are the Democrats.
anybody that was behind it. But now, unfortunately, the beginning of this isn't Democrats. The beginning of this is Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Ronald Reagan signed into law deregulation.
So-
So deregulation is how this happened.
Well, and
Wait a
so
second,
deregulation is cool, right?
It is not cool. What happened is, look at the 1970s, go to Time magazine and look at the China issue. They're all on bicycles. They're all on bicycles.
So
Okay, Tim, with your premise, your cookie cutter premise about if an American company went over there, that's treasonous.
They are,
Okay, let's
without doubt.
take it one step further. You go out and buy a TV. Do you look, it says made in China, or one over here, made in the USA? Well, China's cheaper. I'm buying the one from, are you a trader?
Yeah, absolutely. If you buy that cheaper TV, you're a trader. Absolutely.
I
Lindsay
was raised
Holt's
that
good.
way. My dad. So
You
my
bet you
dad,
were.
born in Portsmouth, Ohio, right? His dad and grandfather, my grandfather and great grandfather worked at steel mills. He would not own a car that was foreign.
Yeah.
He would not own a car with foreign steel, nor
Neither
would he
would
allow
I.
me to have one.
Neither would my
Even
parents.
used,
I have
even
several.
used, I couldn't have.
I have several cars.
Especially
and
German.
none of them are made in the United States.
Which would say you're treasonous.
That's right.
According
That's
to
what it would
this
say.
current
Yep.
discussion.
Well, no, not necessarily with cars, but
How you can't be special.
Come on.
Cars,
You can't be
nails,
with exceptions.
toothpaste, right? Cereal. It's all the same.
Well, but you look at say Ford, or it could be GM, doesn't matter. Well, we build these in Oklahoma in our plant. Okay, where are all the parts from? China.
Yeah.
Most Fords are built here in North America and stuff, and you're right about that. But I mean, so
There's
and
nothing
to your
wrong.
point about the bicycles, one country's going to lift everybody in today's world, right? And I know in coaching we used to get into personalities, and China and is very analytical, right? My issue with them, they can take anything we make and remake it. They can just tear it apart and do it. But they can't think.
And
They can't imagine. They have
here's-
no kind of creativity.
here is the
You
deal.
know, you say they take it apart and, and then build it. No, they don't. They just go to the patent office, get the patent, and say, "Oh, hey, look, this is how it's made. Let's do it. Go ahead." Patents mean in
Same
this
difference.
country mean absolutely nothing
Yeah.
to them.
Same
Well,
difference.
and so, I mean, I'm just saying, what are you going to do? They got more people than we got, too.
Well,
Right by a lot.
here's what it
Six or
boils
eight
down to.
times as many as we do.
Yep.
If you look back into the 1600s in England, you will see that the writers at that time called corporations and referred to corporations as arms of the sovereignty, chips of the sovereignty. Corporations were part of the country. And when the king and queen wanted something brought back, they would incorporate a corporation, send get back and dissolve it. They were never designed to be long-lasting entities, ever.
Well, I
Ever.
mean, obviously they had no creativity either because that's when everyone left, right? That's when everyone came here and did their thing. So they weren't smart.
Okay, but if, back leading to my point, if
What's
a company, oh, go ahead.
okay? What is it? What is the
Couple minutes, all we got.
University of Irvine, Southern California.
Uh-huh.
What's the population of it now of Chinese students?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
well, see, I'm from LA. So we already, in the 1970s, we had the whole Vietnamese boat movement. So we've already dealt with the eating the cats and I mean, we had to deal with a lot of stuff having all those Vietnamese immigrants come in.
I lived in California since like '84,
Yeah.
right? Orange County, San Diego.
Well, down in
I've been all over it.
Huntington Beach is Little Saigon, literally.
Yeah.
Called with a sign, Little Saigon.
So it's not alone. Every state has its own little sections,
It does.
right? I mean,
It
every
does.
state has.
So
And-
it's funny
and
that-
little by
funny that
little-
it's funny that we ended up on this subject because I'm talking about this book. It's done on purpose.
Well,
It's the reason the government, and trust me, when I'm saying government, I'm not talking about our elected officials. I'm talking about the government,
Right.
the people that
The deep state.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, the reason that they don't mandate English being spoken in this country, why do you think? Because back in the day, if there was a problem, the way the Constitution's set up, we all talk and then we react, right? That's what the Second Amendment's about. But if you have everybody so factionized that they can't even communicate with
Right.
each other because it's Chinatown, Japantown, Little Korea, whatever it is, all these factions. So if we go to gather the troops and do what the Second Amendment told us we're allowed to do, and stand up for our rights, we won't even be able to communicate to them.
so
Wait a minute,
ethnicities are conservative. They believe in God.
Yes.
They're family oriented and they're close knit. The Democrats are fools for trying to convert them, right? We
Tim,
should be
you-
converting
Okay,
those
guys,
folks.
I hate to
Take
do
your
this to
premise.
everybody, but we got to cut this out. Otherwise,
Okay.
I don't get to put this on the radio.
All right.
And we want to do that. It's 93.7 FM, and that's from 7 to 9 p.m. And this show will air next week. But you're hearing it live, and we thank you for being with us. And I want to thank Tim
Thanks.
Reynolds for being here. And it's Timothy Jon Reynolds when you look for his books.
The Jon is the
Jon
important
is
part.
the important part. That's
Yeah.
right. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Ed. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. And we'll be
No
back
on
again next
three.
week. No on three.
No
That's right.
on three.
See y'all later.
Thank you.